Hello there, and welcome to Live Music and Me, the music podcast where we ask some of our friends to come on and talk about their gig memories. On today's episode, our guest was the musician, arranger, and author Helen O Hara, probably best known for her time around Dexys Midnight Runners, but Helen's also been involved with a whole bunch of other bands and singers, Tanika Tikaram and Tim Burgess, who she's actually playing with pretty soon. We covered a lot of bases with it. We had a real laugh, and Helen was great company, and some of her picks as well were really good fun. As ever, we never cover all the chat we want to, and off camera, we ended up talking a bit about Nicky Hopkin, who Helen ended up working with on one of her solo records. And I really wish I'd managed to get some of that chat back in, but you can't do everything, I guess. So thanks again to Helen. It was really good to have her on, and I'm sure you'll enjoy the podcast when you click the link. Take care now. All the best. Helen, good afternoon. How are we doing?
Good afternoon, Brian. I'm very well, thank you. And yourself?
Fine. Sorry about the minor technicalities there trying to get you on, but
It's just life.
it
No
is life. But
worries.
we're here now, so
Yeah.
that's the main thing. So thanks very much for your time. Really appreciate that. And in case I forget, congratulations on your memoir. Uh, which is what, a couple of years now? Is that maybe?
Yeah, came
Yeah.
out in 2022, actually.
Oh, is it? Right. Oh,
Yeah, yeah.
wow. It's
Thank you.
great. I'm about
Thank
75% way through it, so I'm just
Oh,
out
nice.
the back of Touraye and getting into Don't Stand Me Down.
Oh, cool. Okay.
So very enjoyable. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so on that note, because there's obviously a whole bunch of stuff about live music in your book, so are you good to have a go at live music in me?
Far away.
Fire away. Okay, brilliant. Okay, so let's kick off then. Tell us about the first gig that you went to.
First gig was Black Sabbath.
Wow,
So
okay.
so yeah, no messing around.
Uh,
To be honest, I didn't know much about Black Sabbath. Um, I only knew Paranoid, but a friend had said they were going and would I go along? And I'd heard the record and I thought, well, that's exciting. And it was the first big gig. So I'd been to see small sort of youth club bands and that
mm,
sort of thing, but this
mm,
was the first sort of big professional gig at the Colston Hall in Bristol.
okay.
So it's 2,200, what it was then.
Uh,
It's now the Bristol Beacon. And I got a ticket. I had a ticket with my friend, and we were sitting right at the back of the balcony bit. And it was just fantastic. I mean, I suppose it kind of ignited things. It was one of the things that ignited my future. I think
yeah,
the excitement, the rawness, the energy from not only from the band, but from the crowd I was in. And of course, most people were much older than me. I was about, I think that was 1970, 1971. I think.
okay.
Been about 15.
And was that have
So
been your kind of genre? Heavy metal? Heavy rock?
no, it wasn't
No,
at all. It
no.
wasn't at all. But it didn't matter.
Right.
It really didn't matter. I'd heard Paranoid on the radio. I thought, well, that's exciting. It
Yeah.
was more about going to a live gig, and this just the offer came. Do you want to go with me? And I just thought, yeah, why not? It was just an adventure. But
Yeah.
and I never listened to any of their music again. I don't think. I did buy I did buy a poster after the gig.
All right. Okay.
Poster of these guys,
Yeah.
hairy guys. and and it wasn't like I fancied any of them either. I mean, but
No, no.
it was more about the statement of intent. It was more about something's happened here. I'm going to buy
Mm,
the poster. I'm going to put it on my wall, and and that was almost like the beginning in a
right.
way of me thinking, I wonder if I can get the violin. I wonder if I can play the violin in a band. I wasn't, thinking quite as clearly as that, but I think the
Yeah.
wheel was beginning to turn. So it was
All
a
right.
very important gig. And
Absolutely.
what made it even better, um, 51 years later or something, was that in 2022, Dexys played um, for the closing ceremony at the Commonwealth Games
Yep.
because it was held in Birmingham. They wanted
Yep.
Birmingham bands, so we played Come on Eileen, and Black Sabbath were the headline. It was quite moving actually
Yeah.
because it was like the the circle had come round. They
Yeah.
were the first band I saw. They were the ignition point in a way, or certainly one of them. And here I was, celebrating what I dreamt of doing.
Yeah.
And, yeah, it kind of blew my mind a bit.
Did you tell them?
I didn't meet them. No, we
No.
didn't
Right.
know they were playing until
Right.
right until the end. It was kept a secret, really.
Okay.
And I didn't meet them, unfortunately.
Mm.
It would have been nice. Yeah,
Yeah.
it would have been
Yeah.
amazing
It would
to
have been.
but there we are. But
There we
it's,
are.
I I've got it inside me. I
You
did it.
have.
It's just
Totally you
great.
have. Yeah.
So
That's
exciting. Yeah.
that's a great jumping off point now. Magic.
Yeah. It was
Okay.
magic.
It
Yeah.
was, yeah, wonderful. Okay, so was it forward then? So what about the last gig that you went to?
Well, the last gig was the Bluebells, actually, at the
Ah,
229 Club in London, in Great Portland Street, because the Bluebells had asked me to join them for a couple of songs
uh-huh.
at their gig in London with the full band. And I was going to be playing Young at Heart and one of the Velvet songs with them, but that was right at the end of the set. So I was able to stand and
Right.
listen and watch and play for about 70% of their set,
Yep.
um, which was amazing. I was with my son and his partner as well, and it was very exciting to see
Mm.
them play the energy, the wonderful songs, and to be able to yeah, just to be able to not, I suppose, to enjoy them as watching them, and then
Mm.
think, oh, better go get fit already, and so
Yeah.
that was the last gig. Yeah, so
Yeah, and it
very
was nice your son was there as well, that whole generational thing, and that's what it's all about, right?
totally,
Yeah.
totally, and they love the band and they love the
Good.
songs, and they met Bobby and everyone, and it
Magic.
was just love. Yeah, it was a lovely thing, actually. That's those sort of generation things.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my son is a professional drummer as well, so it's
Ah,
kind of
cool.
it was there was a lot to talk about, and kind of,
Yeah.
yeah, it was lovely. So
You
I did
didn't get
like.
him to stand in for David when no. Okay, that's great. And we've obviously got mutual acquaintance there because I know we're both big fans of the band. So,
Yeah,
lovely people.
totally.
So that's great, Magic. Okay,
Yeah.
what about a gig that you travelled the furthest to get to?
Did I travel the furthest to get to? I think that was again when I was a teenager. I was a big David Bowie fan,
Hmm.
and I'd already seen him play 6 months earlier when Starman came out at a very small venue. I don't know if it still exists in Bristol. It was part of the sort of Mecca, you know, umbrella, under the Mecca umbrella, the Locarno, Bristol. So it was very, and I was,
Yeah.
feet, inches almost away from David Bowie, and
Wow.
it was amazing. I mean, it was
And
really,
that was
and that was
full.
another ignition point.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
that was full Ziggy time, right? That was, yeah,
Nicky
yeah.
Stardust, it was the Spiders, it was the blue guitar. And so as soon as I saw a poster advertising another gig for Bowie, I wanted to go. And they weren't playing Bristol this time, but in Earl's Court
Mm.
in London. And so me and a friend who was just a big as fan as me, we sent away for tickets because that's how you did it then.
Hmm.
And tickets arrived, double A, and we thought, great, we're near the front again. Of course, didn't realise that double A meant, you know,
Comes after Zed, right?
yeah, they were like that big on the stage, and we'd also had to hitch to London because we didn't have the money,
Right.
to get a train or coach or anything, and we
Okay.
had to hitch back as well. And the sound was terrible, absolutely terrible.
Oh.
We could hardly hear. I'm sorry, we could hardly see the band. The sound was just a complete mess. And I think having been so spoilt at
Mm.
Locarno, being so close, the sound was good, and everything was perfect. It was a huge disappointment.
Mm.
So yeah, but I was lucky to see him again another couple of times after that, back in Bristol at the Castle Hall, and
Okay.
again, close up and or or say him and the band, fantastic. So it was just one of those things. So I suppose that was the furthest I've ever
Yeah.
gone.
But the whole adventure and the
Yeah,
stories that you're telling about it, that's part of the event really, isn't it? Although the gig was disappointing, but you remember the whole getting there. And can't believe you hitched back after the gig from London to back to Bristol, I guess, was it?
we did hitch back,
Yeah.
and we got dropped off on the motorway on the Bristol Wales turnoff,
Oh, brilliant.
and got picked up by the police. Oh, I mean, that was another nightmare, really, that just sort of added to the whole thing. But it
Yeah.
was. I suppose it's that thing of really growing up quickly and learning, and that's how
Mm.
those things happen in your teenage years, don't they?
Yeah,
These
they do. Yeah.
sort of adventures and risks and all sorts of things you do, which are a bit mad at times, but you remember them, like you say, and they become part of become part of you, don't they?
Yeah, they do. Totally. Yeah, I did see Bowie, but not back at Ziggy time, I'm afraid.
Oh,
So yeah, a bit later. Let's Dance and stuff like that, I saw him, which
all
was
right,
which was good.
cool.
Yeah, a total icon. So
Oh,
not
totally
not
amazing.
not jealous at all with that one. What about first gig with a partner?
That's quite a hard one because I can't really I can't really remember the first one, but one that stands out, put it that way, was so in 1983, Dexys were touring in America,
Hmm.
and we were in New York. And at that point, I was in a relationship with Kevin Rowland. So I
Hmm.
suppose he was my partner. And we, along with some of the band, we went to see James Brown.
Ah, okay.
I know,
Wow.
and it's incredible thinking back now to this, to think I saw James Brown
Yeah.
in quite a small venue. So I can't remember where we saw him in the band. I think it might have been in Harlem. It was definitely a small theatre.
Okay.
So again, very
Yeah.
close. And Kevin had told me a lot about James Brown, and his approach, as a
Yeah.
front man, and the theatrics, and how amazing the band was, and how we find musicians and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But I hadn't heard an awful lot of his music because music wasn't accessible then as it is now. The only way you sort of heard music really was on the radio or through records
Mm.
or cassettes and whatever. And so Kevin had played me a little bit, but I hadn't really heard much. But what
Mm.
I'd heard was, staggering. But
Yeah.
then to see him for real and doing that whole thing of being led off, and stepping around him.
The
And
big
of course I
cloak,
could
the big
relate,
coat over
with
him. Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, and then
Yeah.
he's back again, and he's crying, and
Yeah.
the band play on, and yeah, it was absolutely amazing. And
I
of
mean,
course I saw the link with Dexys
yeah, I
with
was just about to ask you that. Different similarities between that leader and the how the band were drilled and stuff. And
how the
yeah,
band was
yeah,
drilled, how they had that punch and
yeah,
projection and the theatrics as well, the
yeah.
choreography, and Kevin is a great front man, so
Wonderful.
and he was obviously a huge fan of James Brown. And so I was beginning to see, I was still learning about Dexys really and where they came from at that point.
Yeah,
There was a lot to get my head around really with the band um, because so much had happened with their history, if you like, and
yeah,
I wasn't able to read up on it because there wasn't any information to sort of read up, and nobody seemed to have much time to talk to me about the past of the band, and also I was still a little bit shy about asking. That thing now,
mm,
when you're older, you just ask and find out, and
mm,
but I sort of was still finding my feet and didn't really want to ask, so I didn't really know much. So finding out things like that,
yeah.
seeing James Brown, and also the support act was Etta James.
Ah, wonderful. Wow.
I know.
That's a gig. I think that's one of my questions, actually, the best support act that
Oh, really?
you've
Well,
ever seen. So
I wouldn't
do you
say
want to
Etta
cover that
James
one
was.
off? Or?
Well, she was amazing, and
Yeah.
what was incredible was a year or so down the line, we actually used her drummer, Crusher, who was playing with her. We were
Right.
looking for a drummer, for Don't Stand Me Down,
Yep.
and we were having trouble finding the right drummer, if you like. And we remembered Crusher, Mainly, I think, actually, because he had this incredible bass drum technique, and really kind of like firing bullets, you know.
Yeah.
But he was a great drummer, and he came over and rehearsed with us. And he was also, oh, what's his name? Can't remember his name. Somebody's MD. Wilson Pickett's MD. Wilson
Okay.
MD, yeah,
Excellent.
which I didn't know at the time.
No.
So he's a very musical guy, and
Yeah.
he always used to call me Mum. You know, yes, Mum. You know, and he's a big guy. You know,
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
you wouldn't mess with him. You know what I mean? But
Good. That sounds
so that's
magic.
the nice link from that gig. But
Yeah.
the best support act, I think, is going back to that Bowie gig at the
Uh-huh.
Locarno was Roxy Music.
They were supporting Bowie.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Virginia playing time. I mean,
Yeah. And Eno's still in the band and
blessed.
all that stuff, right?
Pardon?
Eno still be in the band at that
Yeah,
point.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
original, you know, Andy Mackay. It was all the
Oh,
guys. I know. And I was aware of Virginia playing, but again, see, I wasn't really, you know, I didn't know what they looked like visually, really. And then just seeing this band come on and then play and all this synth stuff and just the charisma of Brian Ferry as well, or the
mm,
whole band really, and
mm.
the sound they made. So that gig really was, you know, amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm going to give you that. That's Roxy Music Support's wonderful.
And then
Um,
when I bought the album, and it was
oh,
like,
yeah.
I still
Fantastic.
play it as well. It's like
Yeah. Still sounds like nothing else, really, does it? You know? Yeah.
amazing first album, isn't it? And the
Yeah.
cover, yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think that was probably the best support because it
Yeah.
was a surprise as well, you know.
Absolutely. It would be totally.
Yeah.
Well, if you can just indulge me very slightly. So for the first time ever, I think on the podcast, I've actually got an answer to one of the questions that I ask
Oh,
that's my guest. So the question about first gig with a partner was actually if I can find this, can I get it up somewhere? Here we go. Look at
no
look at
way. Oh,
that.
amazing. Wow. Pavilion Theatre Classic. Wow.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So I think that was the first gig in your, is it the Bridge tour, I think?
It was, yeah.
So I was there. I
Wow.
was in the. Have you seen that? I was actually in row A, not double A. A, if I can find it. Here we go.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's
There
not
we
double
go.
A, it's
Yeah,
A.
look at that.
That's
So
amazing.
yeah, so that I went there with my partner, and I can't remember being at another one before that. So you guys were my first one. So
Oh, that's amazing. Oh,
isn't
nice
it?
one,
Yeah,
Mike.
I didn't
Yeah,
know that till I'm back and check, but there you are.
incredible. Yeah.
That was wonderful as well. Very,
Oh,
very. I remember
wow.
I remember the
You
front
loved
row
it.
feeling felt quite dangerous. The front row, if that makes sense. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, it felt almost as if I was on stage type thing. It was quite
Wow.
gap was really small. So
Well, and also we came right up, didn't we? You
yeah,
know,
you
feet
you
on the
did.
monitors type thing, wasn't it? You know, it was
I
like,
was only 17. You were scaring the
oh,
shit out of me,
wow.
you know. So
Wow.
it was great. Yeah,
Oh, amazing.
wonderful. So thanks
Oh,
for that.
great.
Okay, so what about a bucket gig in the past that you had wish you
Um,
could have got to? Anything?
well, again, loads of things. I think maybe Dylan
Hmm.
would have Dylan or no, I think that would be no, I think one from the past. I think that no, Leonard Cohen, I think.
Leonard Cohen,
Leonard Cohen's last world tour, I think.
right?
And Leonard and the reason I say that is that I was never I only really discovered Leonard Cohen or started listening to him through clips from that world tour that I was looking at in around about 2016. They were coming onto YouTube,
Yep.
and um, I was just whether it was sometimes you're sort of ready to appreciate somebody, and
Mm,
I think I was just ready then to
mm,
appreciate him and his music, his those wonderful singers, the Webb sisters and Sharon Robinson, they were just sort of angelic but soulful, perfect voices that balanced his. They had
yeah.
these high, beautiful sort of the sound of them together against his sort of gravelly, almost
Yeah.
speaking voice was just such a great sort of opposites. Really, had a I thought his band were amazing. I loved his violinist he used as well. Everybody he'd picked for his band seemed perfect, you
Mm,
know. And
mm.
I just loved the songs. And a friend of mine actually went to the London gig. I found this out later, and she said it really was really special
Yeah, quite
seeing.
emotional, I would imagine.
Yes.
Yeah,
See, he when was that? 2013, was it?
about that. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And when did he die? I mean, it wasn't many years later,
No, I
was it?
wouldn't.
He
No, no,
was.
no. It was pre-COVID, so
It was
yeah,
pre-COVID,
yeah. I think so.
and he must have known that he was,
Hmm.
because I remember reading somewhere that he said, I'm ready to die, sort of thing, and
Yeah,
it's just
yeah.
an incredible sort of,
And you
you
can
know,
hear that in his voice, that the aging or his sort of life stories in his voice, really, isn't it? A bit like Johnny Cash towards the end, where
yes,
you literally felt as if he was
yeah.
dying, if that makes sense.
You're coming to the end, sort of thing,
Yeah,
and it was just, and like you say, it's very emotional watching it, and he'd at times, he'd take his hat off and he'd hold it, and he'd just look at the person who was soloing or the singers, and you could see him almost sort of, like all the years were being reeled
mm,
back in
mm,
just through his, these songs were quite old by then, so I'm
yeah,
married and all
absolutely.
those. And it was just beautiful, so
Yeah,
I think it would have been very special to have been
yeah. I've never
been
seen him. Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it
Yeah.
would be wonderful. I also think that Nick Cave's kind of picked up the baton a little bit
Yes.
for Leonard. Certainly in later years, he's
Yes.
became
Yeah, you're
a
right.
bit more
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, which
Yeah.
nice to see that's kind of carrying on.
It
Um,
is nice to see.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, cool. That's cracking. Have you been to a gig? What about a gig that really surprised you, either really good or really bad?
Well, one that really surprised me was, I think it was either last year. I think it was the beginning of last year, actually. And Pete Bifidis, the journalist,
Yeah.
a friend of mine, and he'd messaged me sort of out the blue, and he said, "Oh, I've got a spare ticket to see the Lightning Seeds and Madness tonight at the O2."
Okay.
Um, and I live in Greenwich in London, so it's very, very near me.
Yep.
I wasn't doing anything. I thought, well, that sounds good. Um, I like Madness, and
Mm-hmm.
I knew nothing about the Lightning Seeds. Okay,
Right.
so
Okay.
apart from that football song,
Yeah.
what do I call
The
it? That
three
football.
lines. Yeah.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
three
So
lines.
apart from that,
Yeah.
and so the Lightning Seeds surprised me. I was blown away actually because basically what happened it has happened in my life is that in about 1991 when I had my first son, I decided to well, it kind of petered out, and then I just stopped playing for
Mm-hmm.
23 years. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I didn't really listen to much music then either. So
Yeah.
I've missed out on an awful lot of music. I'm still catching up, I suppose.
Okay.
And the Lightning Seeds were one of those bands. And then hearing them and watching them play, a fantastic set, and it just
Mm.
song after song
Mm.
was just seemed like a perfect pop song after pop song,
Mm.
and I so enjoyed it. And I wasn't I kind of I wasn't not expecting, but not expecting to enjoy it as much,
Yeah.
And I love the fact that Ian Brody's son plays in the band as
Yep.
well.
Does.
Um,
And
and I just thought,
he's a real iconic individual, Brody, because he grew up with all that early 80s Liverpool
okay,
stuff, the Bunnymen, Teardrop Explodes, Wild Swans, Pale Fountains. He's part of that world.
yes,
And then eventually did his own thing with the Lightning Seed. So very
yeah,
cool guy as well as very popular through his songs and stuff. So
it's hugely talented. I can see, just
yeah,
like I've got a lot of catching up on some of his other
yeah.
stuff, but that was great. And then of course, Madness were madness, and
Madness, yeah,
so, great time.
yeah,
But yeah, it was really lovely to discover their music, the Latin Seeds music, and then I just kept playing their music for a whole weekend. I think
yeah,
it was very uplifting as
yeah,
well.
absolutely.
So I was very grateful to Pete for giving me that ticket.
Yeah, it would have been a great journalist as well, Pete. Fantastic.
Yeah,
Did they play the three lines? The Lightning Seeds.
sorry.
Did they play the three lines? Did they play the song?
They did.
They
Yes.
did, right.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you did
I
that.
don't think he plays it in Scotland so much, to be
Oh,
fair.
really? I think the crowd were waiting for that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Very good.
I
Very
can
good.
imagine. Yeah, not the one.
Yeah, that says a lot about us, I think. What about a gig that maybe you had a ticket to but you never got? Did that happen to you?
No, I don't think that's ever
No.
happened, actually.
All right. Well
Not that
done.
I can remember, anyway. So,
Okay.
not a political
Well done,
success.
you. Yeah, we've had some cracking answers to that.
I
Yeah,
bet. Yeah.
I got tickets to see the Proclaimers play the Barrowlands going
Oh,
back in the mid 2000s. But I was
oh,
working in Italy at the time, and I thought it was the wrong week, so I flew back from Italy to go to the gig, and it had been the week before. So, and I got into so much trouble from my wife and my friends who I'd bought all the
oh,
tickets for. So, but the punchline to that, Helen, was that they were all here. You know, the gig that actually happened was reviewed in the Sunday Mail, and the Billy Sloan, I think, might have reviewed it in the local press, and they never thought to say to me that they were playing last weekend. You know, are you sure they're playing again next weekend? They still let me fly back, right? So, all my fault, of course.
of course,
Yeah,
yeah.
of
They were.
course.
I saw them at the Kilburn National
That'd be
um,
wonderful. Yeah,
in the earlier days because they actually they'd sent Kevin their demos
that's right. I read that. That's right.
and they came to stay when we were living together. They came to stay with us,
Wow.
and they were recording at the demo studio that the Dexys always used, and so we were just hanging out with them for days and hearing their songs. You know, the
Yeah.
beginning of what
Mm.
was the first album.
There's nothing
And
like them, really, was there at the time?
no, there
No,
was nothing like them,
no.
and the whole package, wasn't it? The way they looked, the way they sang, I mean, incredible songs,
Yeah,
incredible songs. And when we saw them at the National, so they had the album was out then, and the singles and everything were. I mean, it was packed, but it just extraordinary how two young guys could hold the audience like that.
yeah,
Um, and the power in their voices and the guitar and it was like a whole band.
yeah.
And the only thing that's come close to or has been similar to that was seeing Christy Moore
Okay.
at the Royal Albert Hall once,
Hmm.
solo for a whole evening, and held the attention of the Albert Hall all evening with
Yeah,
just the power of his songs and his amazing sort of performances and everything.
yeah. Yeah, and I've never seen Christopher, so yeah, that would be amazing as well. The Proclaimers, I remember seeing them on the Tube. You
Oh
remember
yeah, I
yeah,
do
I think it
remember
was their
seeing
first
them.
performance, and I thought it was one of the bravest things I've ever seen.
Yeah,
You know, just literally as if it had landed from the moon. And this
yeah.
crowd just standing looking at them as, didn't know what they were saying, of course, couldn't understand the word they were saying.
Well, I've got to
Uh,
say, I had a lot of trouble with them. They came to stay, and in fact, going back to the Bluebells, the first time I met Bob, was like we were having a drink, just before the gig, and
yeah.
we were chatting, and like the amount of times I said, "Pardon, pardon, what's that?" And in the end, he said it's the accent, Helen. He said it was just so obvious that
Yeah,
it's, yeah,
yeah,
some strains of the Scottish accent I find difficult.
yeah. I know it's a cross we
So I'm
have to
glad, I'm
bear.
glad I can understand you, actually.
I'm trying very hard here.
Embarrassing.
Trying very hard. Okay, I don't know. Are you a music festival fan? Have you been
No,
to many? No,
no,
no.
I don't like playing at them. And I've never been to a music festival and bought a ticket to
Okay,
go to one.
right.
I don't like that. I'm not don't like camping for a start. So I would
Okay.
never want to, I like my home. I always have. Don't like shared facilities, dodgy loos and all that, and the sort of smells of the smells of food and toilets and everything mixing up, um, and the risk of what the weather might be, of course,
Of course.
and the
Yeah,
big crowds, and so I've never bought a ticket to go, and playing at them, I find difficult. I just think. you don't get a proper sound check.
No.
You just get a line check to just make sure that everything's working. You just cross your fingers, that hope that you can hear everyone. Often can't. Um, I did a couple of over the summer, and I remember one of them, I couldn't hear the guitarist who was, and that's the other thing. The stages are too big for me. I don't like
Yeah.
these massives. You lose connection with
Yeah.
people. You know, the you need to be close. I think that is more important now than ever. That musicians need to be close to each other to get that energy from each other. Literally, the physical sort of.
Mm.
You just once somebody's way over there, you've lost that connection. You
Mm.
might be able to hear them, but this gig I did in the summer, I couldn't hear the guitarist, and I was having to do a very important sort of quiet intro with him, and I just had to look and hope that I was playing time with his fingers, and he's not,
Yeah.
which is very unreliable to do that because
Yeah.
there's sound delays and all sorts of things, because
Yeah.
I was using monitors, not in ears.
Right.
I'm still using monitors.
Okay. Well done, you. There's nothing wrong with that.
But,
They are a bit Marmite, I think, festivals. I think a lot of our guests have had that kind of either or where they
really,
really, really love them
yeah,
and, they've got all these stories
yeah.
to tell, or,
Oh,
not been or very rarely been and didn't enjoy them. So I think it's just
yeah.
the way they are. Um,
I
yeah.
mean, I get why people like them. I
Yeah.
totally get that. I can see, and you can see the enjoyment,
Yeah.
and I must admit that seeing the enjoyment and feeling that buzz from the crowd, the genuine, love and appreciation on that is
Yeah.
wonderful, and I get what they're getting with each other.
Yeah.
But being on the stage, sometimes you can be on that stage and it's like that. You can't
Yeah.
really see. It's so far to the front row, and then you're just seeing this sort of sea of heads, and
Yeah.
it's not really my thing. It's same with that big arena stuff.
Yeah.
O2 isn't too bad actually in Greenwich. It's not too bad. But
Okay.
anything like sort of big stadiums, once you've got those screens up and you're relying on that, well, it's
It's
not.
not quite the same.
It isn't.
Not
It
really.
isn't.
No.
It isn't the same.
So
No.
let me ask you then, you're talking about performing, and that's a tough one for you. So what would you say would be your favorite ever live gig as a performer?
That is a tough one because it's hard to remember everything, and often you
Sure.
can do it again. Oh, that was great, but then you move on to the next one, but I think probably it would have been the bridge tour with Dexys in
Okay.
1982,
Hmm.
and, and probably the Shaftesbury Theatre gigs where we played. I think we played 2 nights.
Was that the one that was recorded?
Yes,
Helen, it was, right.
yeah, and
Yeah.
I think we did 2 shows over 2 days.
Okay.
Sorry, 4 shows over 2 days, so two performances, I think. But we definitely played 2 nights, and it was recorded and filmed. And that tour was probably one of the best tours as a performer that I just enjoyed from the moment it started to
Hmm.
to the end of those gigs. We were so well rehearsed. I was just so thrilled to be in the band. I, yeah, everything had come together when I'd left college, and it was just sort of being with this dream band really. And it was a huge band as well. I think it's 11 of us on stage, um, and every night was great. I just loved it. And interestingly, going back to hearing it because it was recorded
Hmm.
in 2022, Dexys released one of these box sets of the sort of 40 years,
Yep.
a remix of Touraye, but we also had those shows as put onto albums as well, remixed. And when I was sent the recording to listen to before it was going to be released, we were all checking the mixes and everything. I hadn't intended to listen to more than say a couple of tracks and then come back to it, but I was I listened to the lot there and then, and
Okay.
I was so delighted to hear that it had that energy that I'd felt at the time,
Yeah,
and um, that I wasn't wrong, that I hadn't imagined it,
yeah.
and lots of things were better than I thought. Lots of things were different to how, for example, we played a version of Let's Get This Straight from the Start, which we released as a single a little bit later after
Uh-huh.
that tour. But we were playing it a bit differently live,
Hmm.
and to hear that version was great. You said, "Oh yeah, I remember we did. We did that," and the band sounded fantastic. And Seb on the drums, he was
Hmm.
like steady as a rock all the way through, and everybody sounded great. So yeah, I think that was probably for all those reasons, that was
Yeah.
my
Yeah, and
favorite
and
piece of
and your
performance.
memories are they're kind of hardwired, aren't they, into you from that
Yes,
time? Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah. But so it was so positive for me,
yeah,
that experience, and so exciting.
yeah.
And
It
and I
comes
remember,
it comes across in the book.
oh, thank you,
It
thank you.
does, absolutely, it does. It's you're almost on the outside looking in for
Oh,
some
thanks.
of it, but then obviously over time you're on the inside, sort of looking out a bit. So you kind of get it from both sides. So
Yeah, it's
really
funny,
nice.
when I was writing the book, I wanted to write it, not really from hindsight, as
Yeah,
it were, because that would be a completely different book. I wanted just to remember it as I remembered it at the time,
yeah,
and I might change my mind about some of those thoughts now, but at the time, I wanted to get what I felt at the time, sort of thing.
yeah.
And it was interesting, in that a memory came back when I was writing, that one of the road crew said to me, and I didn't take drugs then, and well, I've rarely taken any anyway, but I definitely didn't take drugs then. I hardly drank at all. But one of the road crew said to me, he said, "What are you on, Helen?" He said, "You're always smiling. You're always," and he knew, that I
Yeah,
wasn't off my head, but
yeah,
I was obviously, I couldn't wait for the sound check every day, and just sort of buzzing, I suppose, for the whole
yeah,
2 or 3 weeks. So that
yeah.
was cool. It was a
No,
nice memory to remember that.
totally. Yeah, it's a great memory. Wonderful. Okay, then. So let's get two or three to go. What about mentioned about Leonard Cohen earlier on? Have you still got a bucket gig that you would like to go to or hope to go to?
I
Someone
think that
you,
would be Dylan,
Dylan,
actually.
right?
I think so.
Yeah. Have you seen him at
Because
all?
no,
No, no, me
never
neither.
seen him. I saw the film recently, which
Mm,
thought was fantastic,
yeah,
really
me too.
fantastic. But I love his last album, Rough and Rowdy Ways.
Hmm.
Love that, and the only way I can listen to that is to put my headphones on and just totally get in it. I can't put it on and do something else. I have
Yeah,
to listen to the words, and I love the fact that he's, the acoustic setting, the upright piano, a bit of fiddle, a bit of this, very. And I would love to see that being
yeah,
played now, and also because he's, I guess. I mean, he's a legend, isn't he? Really, he's still alive. He is a
he
legend.
is. Yeah,
He's
totally.
extra. He's somebody I haven't heard all his music, but for a long shot. Um, I've seen a lot of his paintings as well.
Yeah, he's very good, isn't he?
I love
Yeah,
his work. I really
yeah,
love his work, and also he does a lot of iron work as well, because of, that's his hometown was,
yeah.
what do you call it? Where iron
Woodstock.
ore was. Pardon?
It was it Woodstock, wasn't it? He lived. Was it Woodstock?
No, I don't think it was
No.
Woodstock. It
I might.
was.
I think he might have moved to Woodstock. I suppose.
Yeah, it could have. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was a where they mine iron, make iron, or
Ah,
it was.
right. Okay. Right.
So yeah, where was it? They should have paid more attention in the film, because
Yeah.
but anyway, so he's incorporated some sort of sculpture things using iron
Ah,
work
right. Got you. Right.
because of his roots, where he's
Yeah.
from. But yeah, I love his painting, and
Yeah.
uh,
Well,
yeah.
I know he's playing again. So he obviously did some
What was
UK
he?
shows last year, and he's in
Yeah,
America playing, still doing the same tour.
see,
So there's every chance. You know what he's like when he gets onto a roll. He tends to just keep playing, doesn't he?
yeah,
So fingers crossed he'll come back. It's just so difficult to get a ticket because he's playing quite small venues
and
for
that's
for
what I.
Dylan, which is
That
great.
is
But
that's the greatness of it.
I know, I
That
know.
is what he could not play a big gig with that what he's playing.
No, he
It
couldn't.
has
No.
to be small, and Well, if
Well,
I am I going
fingers
to keep checking?
fingers crossed.
Yeah,
Fingers crossed. Me too. Yeah, maybe we'll both get to see him.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
this year or next year. So who do you think you would have saw the most live, other than obviously playing in like Dexys and stuff? Any
That was Bowie. Actually,
Bowie?
so I
Wow.
saw him 4 times. So I saw him that first
Oh,
time when I was in 1972, or whenever it was, at the Bristol Locarno,
yeah,
the Ziggy Stardust period, the beginnings of that. Then I saw him at, the Earl's Court gig, which the disaster gig, and then not long after that, he did another tour where he did play Bristol,
right.
and I got to. He was playing, I think, two shows. Yeah, he did a sort of late afternoon and evening one, and I've got tickets for both of those.
Ah, wow. On the same day?
I was meant to be revising for my levels. I mean, no chance. Priorities.
Yeah,
So, it was absolutely fantastic. And funny enough, again, I didn't realise this until later, but I went with a few friends, from school, and one of my friends' younger brother was sitting with us, and he was Gareth Sager from the pop group,
okay. Right.
who, obviously at the time wasn't,
Yeah,
but it was it was amazing to think that we were both watching Bowie together, and we both went on to do our thing,
yeah.
both Bristol, and yeah, it was lovely. But yeah, Bowie was incredible. So that's 4 times, and then of course there was the um, sort of rather well, there was the gig where we supported David Bowie, Dexys support, and it was a disaster, and it all went horribly wrong.
When was
In
that, Helen? I don't
Well,
think I
that
know this.
was in 1983. I think
Right.
it was the last gig that Dexys played in the Tour period,
Okay.
summer, and we were asked to support David Bowie over a few nights in it was I think it was a horse racing stadium or type place, or it was a big venue in Paris,
Hmm.
and um, yeah, can you imagine, talking about this? Well, this is what happened. We started playing, and all was going well, and Barry was watching the side of the stage. Um, I didn't know that at the time, but I was told later he was watching. And what happened was the crowd started sort of chanting something, and in French. And Kevin, so I've learned about this, actually a bit more about this since I've
Okay.
written the book. So this is more information than's in the book, actually. So
Excellent.
Kevin goes to Seb, the drummer, and says, "What are they saying?" And Seb, unfortunately, tells him that they're well, he's going to say unfortunately, but if he hadn't have said anything, nothing probably would have probably carried on playing. But what happened? He said, "Oh, they're chanting Bowie, Bowie, Bowie," and something like that. And I think Kevin wasn't kind of, well, obviously that's not in French, but Kevin took it the wrong way, that it was only a small group of them, actually, that he just took it the wrong way. Anyway, I
Yeah.
also think, it'd been a very long year for Kevin as
Yeah.
well, and I
Yeah.
think he was tired. Um, and it was just like something, sometimes something you just snap. And he just um, went over to John Edwards, who now plays in Status Quo,
Yeah.
Rhino Edwards, and said, can you tell them this? Because John can speak French. So John did as he was told, and basically said to the audience, Barry, basically, well, I'm abridging this, but basically saying Barry's rubbish.
Oh,
He's
right.
not a patch on David, not a patch on Brian Ferry, and
Right.
well, the crew, the crew. I mean, somebody said that it was amazed that they were amazed we weren't all beaten up on stage, actually, and they weren't joking.
Yeah.
Things were thrown. Kevin said things weren't thrown, but I remember them being thrown. And Paul Charles, who was our agent, writes in his memoir, things were thrown.
Right.
People started to, and he, poor Charles, who was our agent, standing at the side of the stage, he came up to me and protected me, really, led me off stage,
Yeah.
because for me, that it was, I didn't really know what was going on at the time.
Yeah.
It was very confusing. And all I knew was all of a sudden we were being pelted and PA was switched off.
All right. Okay.
And, we went home basically. And there were, we should have been playing the next night, or there might
Ah,
be 3 nights. Bowie apparently went white and was saying, why is he saying this? Why is he saying this?
yeah.
Um, and I think Kevin apologised, wrote to
Yeah.
David, apologised later.
Yeah. I'm
Later,
sure he did.
I don't think he heard back, but he did apologise. And it was just kind of one of those things that happened, really. That it was awful, but it happened. For
Yeah.
whatever reason, Kevin was going through. It just everything exploded at that
Yeah.
point. It
But
was
you said what a great time it was for you. So you think of all the highs that you had during that tour. So, for every high, you're going to have a low somewhere, aren't you? That's
yeah,
that's what happens, right? So,
it's what happens, and yeah, and there were I suppose in a way it was like the curtain came down then, that was the end
yeah,
of there was no more touring. That we were now going to move on to the next album,
yeah.
and not long after that, Kevin literally put his dungarees in the bin, and I followed suit. I just thought, well, okay, let's do it,
Yeah. Got
and
the suits out.
yeah, well,
Yeah,
yeah, we've been buying them already, so that was
absolutely.
quite interesting. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I can imagine. I can imagine. What
yeah.
about what would your favourite venue be as a fan or a performer? Where's the place you remember the most with affection?
I don't really have one actually,
No?
Ron. I don't think I do. There's lots of venues I like a lot. I mean, as a funny enough, it's classical venues. I love the Royal Opera House. Absolutely. And I think that would be a wonderful gig, for Dylan.
Yeah.
So
Oh yeah.
it's beautiful.
Yeah.
So beautiful. And the reason I know it so well is um, my other son, who's not the drummer, he was a stage manager there for a while. So I used to
Okay.
get free tickets to all the operas
Yeah.
in their dress rehearsal stage. And so I got to know it very, very well. And it's just, yeah, stunning. So that's one of them. And the other classical one I like is the Wigmore Hall. And
Where's
again,
that?
it's called the Wigmore Hall,
Wigmore Hall. Don't know that one.
Wigmore Street. It's just
Right.
behind Oxford Street,
Okay.
central London. And it's generally a sort of chamber music, classical,
Right.
um, very small, just a few hundred people venue. Very beautiful, fantastic acoustic for acoustic instruments. So that's very gorgeous. I do like the Albert Hall as well,
Mm. Yeah. Beautiful.
for all sorts
Yeah.
of music, classical and pop music. I saw that,
Yeah.
Van Morrison there, Nancy
Yeah.
Griffiths, sing, Christy Moore was there, and it always works,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that
It's a great
that's a
sound, right?
cool place. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. What would you say? You mentioned about your Shaftesbury Avenue gig, theatre gig, sorry, for Dexys. What would your favourite gig be as a fan then, if you had to pick one? What would be the
Favorite
one that would stand out for you as a fan going to a gig?
as a fan. Oh
Favourite ever gig?
gosh, it's quite hard. Probably, or I mean, so funny, isn't it? Because often it's the space you're in at the time, or I mean, I could say something today and it'd be different tomorrow.
True.
So today, I must say, Al Green was amazing.
Al
At
Green. Where was that? Right.
Royal Albert Hall.
Okay. Wow.
I'd say that was it's,
When,
tomorrow. It might be James.
when would that be, Helen, roughly?
That was that would have been about 1984, I
Wow.
think. What was fantastic about that was, apart from seeing Al Green, who was superb, But when we were now looking for another. So we'd used Crusher
Yeah.
as the drummer
Yeah.
for a bit, but we'd only got one track from him for Don't Slow Me Down, which was Listen to This, which was fantastic. But
Uh-huh.
he went back to America. It wasn't working out. We'd played with Woody Woodmansey, one of the
Uh-huh.
Spiders, and
Of
he played
course.
on the waltz, and he was great, but he wasn't the right drummer for the feel for the rest of the album. So we were looking again for the right. And Al Green's drummer, I said to Kevin, "There's our drummer," and Kevin said, "Well, okay, get onto it." So and it was Tim Dancy,
Yeah.
and so the management or record company found Willie Mitchell's, the producer Willie
Yep.
Mitchell's number.
Yep.
And it was mad to think that, I was given Willie Mitchell's number. I then dialed in the old Willie Mitchell's number to America.
Yeah.
Asked for Tim Dance's audio so we could.
And you
And
got it?
I spoke to Willie Mitchell.
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, it's just, I'm Helen. I play the violin with. Don't suppose you've heard of Dexys Midnight
Yeah.
Runners? Have you?" He said, "Yeah, sure, I've heard of Dexys Midnight Runners." That's like, you know. And then he gave me Tim's phone number. I wrote it down, and then management got hold of Tim, and he came over, and me and Billy Adams, the guitarist in
Mm-hmm.
Dexys, we rehearsed with Tim, just us, me and my violin, Billy on his guitar, with Tim on this drum kit, and I was standing in front of him. I knew the drum parts so well, and we'd auditioned so many drummers. I knew the drum parts, and so I was playing air drums.
Like a Black Sabbath gig, right?
Tim was watching me, and he was, and he would follow me, and if it was a crash, and I would
Yeah.
in the part, and he'd also had a listen as well, so
Right.
and he learned the parts in, I don't know, 2 days or something, and we recorded the rest of the songs we've been struggling to record with the right drummer, if you like, for months, and Tim did them with us in a few days.
Yeah.
And when you've got the right people, they
Yeah.
record really quickly,
Yeah.
and that was the thing. And so it seemed like it was a very expensive thing to do to get this guy over from America and all the rest of it. But in the end, it's often cheaper, because
Yeah, of
these
course.
people who understand what you want, Tim got what Kevin was about, and those songs,
Yeah.
and also the way he played was, we wanted somebody who played slightly, well, that Al Green groove where they're slightly behind the beat. You're
Yeah,
not
I do.
bang
Yeah.
on the center of it
In the
all.
pocket. Yeah.
And it was just a natural way for him to
Yeah.
play. So he had that, and also he was rock steady. He had the feel. It's his sound as well. I was talking to somebody about this the other day. The sound that he got from his drum kit at that time, I'd never heard it with British drummers. I don't know the way he tuned his snare, the way he played the hi-hat. He just had a sound that was, and I don't know much about drums, but it was
Yeah.
something there that was right for that album. And it's interesting now, listening back to the album, how loud the drums are on the album,
Yeah.
the production, which I think is great.
Yeah.
But
It's
they are,
also it's a very soulful album, isn't it?
yes,
So I think I didn't know that backstory, but you can understand why Al Green's drummer would fit in so well to the
yes,
album, because that feel, it's a kind of white soul thing, isn't it, really? So
it is. That's
yeah,
right.
sounds
Yeah.
wonderful. Yeah.
And what a few years ago, I saw Kevin a year or so ago. He said that he'd met up with Tim again, Tim
Okay.
Dancy, in Los Angeles when he was there a few years ago. And
Yeah.
he said he's still playing, really in demand as a drummer.
I bet. Yeah.
Still the same positive, live wire sort
Yeah.
of great energy working with him. Just like you've got somebody like that who's just up for it, and you just feed off that.
Yeah.
And
Totally.
that was it in the end with the musicians like Vince Gray and all, those. It almost wasn't just the playing; it was being in the same room as these.
Yeah.
They were all amazing, but being in the same room as this sort of fantastic vibe, really.
Yeah. And if you've got a drummer who's played with Al Green for a period of time, you can't help but be inspired, can you? Really? To that's it's kind of must
Absolutely.
have been it was almost in his DNA, I guess, that he's got that feel for it, right?
Yeah, and I think
Mm.
Tim grew up. I think his dad was a drummer as well, and he'd just grown up with that
Yeah,
whole Memphis thing,
yeah,
And then the other what was quite interesting is when we were looking for musicians for the live tour, the Coming to Town tour to promote Don't Slow Me Down,
yeah,
is the guitarist who we'd seen play with Al Green, Jared Minnis. We also brought over to
right.
play in the live band again
Okay.
because he had that sound,
Yeah,
uh, you know, we needed another player apart from Billy Adams. It
yeah,
needed more sort of lead,
yeah.
and yeah, Jared's playing, was fantastic. So that was
Okay.
great as well. So good job you went to see Al Green because
I was
it's
going to say that all through Al Green. Yeah.
interesting that, isn't it? You think what would have happened if we hadn't seen Al Green? We wouldn't have had Tim drumming.
Well,
It's it's interesting, isn't
it
it?
is. Yeah, everything's for a reason, isn't it? That's the thing. Yeah.
Level that.
Or not.
Yeah.
And to finish then, the last question we ask everyone, which is a toughie, is one live album that you should own a copy of.
And without doubt, for that would be the Simon and Garfunkel New York
Central Park.
Central Park.
Okay. What? Why?
19,
Why that one? You were quite specific about that. Why is that?
because that is, I wasn't there at the
No.
gig. It was one of those um, videos and I've seen since. It's something I've in later years discovered, and it's so inspiring. I mean, I'm a big fan of Paul Simon
Sure.
and the Simon and Garfunkel. That's a period as well.
Yep.
But that particular concert, I think, the band, Steve Gadd on drums,
Hmm.
the way that they are together, the Simon and Garfunkel, the way they are just. I mean, I really can't stress how inspired I am by their whole the songwriting and the way they sing together. And Paul Simon's again, it's the sort of energy from them I mean the songs, and if ever I need a bit of inspiration, I choose one of the songs from that. I
Okay.
always go to that because there is something apart from the music that seems to jump out from the
Yeah.
speakers to me,
And
for me.
also you can hear it and see it, can't you? Because of course there was a video of the
Yeah,
gig, and so you get the whole visual feel for it as well. You don't have to imagine
absolutely.
it because it's there. You see the
It's
crowd and all that.
absolutely. And I believe they gave the money from the film and video side they gave that money to Central Park for the
Ah,
renovations and
okay, I didn't know that.
concerts as well. So it was a free concert, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it
I think. But
was.
so the money made from the films and the video. I think I read this online, but if
Yeah,
that's true, then that's a really nice.
it
nice
is. Yeah.
and yeah, Paul Simon is. I saw the documentary came out on his birthday recently, his 80th birthday,
I
and they
think
only
so.
released it
Yeah.
in the cinema for one day, and I went to see it,
Okay.
and there was an interval, because it's quite long, and it really is fascinating. It's a
Yeah.
really fascinating and yeah, just his whole process of music making, and yeah, it's recommended if
Yeah, I'll catch that actually. I remember it coming out, but I certainly didn't see it.
well, like I
Um,
said, they only put it out in cinemas for just for that day.
right.
It was quite weird.
Quite
It was like a
quite
one-off.
brave. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, presumably you can get it on
Yeah, it'll be on
stream
catch
it
up
now.
or streaming or something. Yeah.
I suppose it was just a birthday celebration. But the
Yeah.
sad thing is, he is going deaf now. He's losing his hearing,
He is. Yeah, he stopped live and stuff now, hasn't he? So,
and that kind of
yeah,
was tragic within it. But you could see him how he was coping with that.
yeah. Well, I'll make
Um,
sure I search that out. It's one of the great things of doing this is that we get recommendations from all the guests really about stuff they've
sure.
heard or watched, and it's great because when we share it, people go, and go and find
That's
it.
right. I mean, that's the beauty of these chats,
It
isn't it?
is. It's magic. We
Yeah,
love
it
them
is
so
magic.
much. So
Yeah. Oh,
that's us at the last question, Helen. So I hope that wasn't
oh,
too painful for you. Was that okay?
it's been great chatting, and it's inspiring, isn't it, when you memories
Wonderful.
about gigs
I
and
can't
stuff. So
I can't
yeah.
thank you enough. It's been great to
Well,
get
thanks
some
for
time
asking
with
me.
you.
It's nice
And
to
you,
meet you, and
uh,
hopefully meet you in person at some point.
yeah, and you're still playing live at the moment. I think you've got some gigs coming up, haven't you?
Yes, I've got two gigs
Playing with
with
Tim Burgess, right?
Tim Burgess
Yeah.
and the Royal Northern College of Music Orchestra. So
Hmm.
we have a 40-piece orchestra and band with us.
Wow. You
End of
won't
February, beginning of March. Yeah.
no pressure then, right? And what would that be?
This is practice.
Would that be Tim's sort of back catalogue and maybe some covers and stuff, or what would you?
It's Charlatan songs, Tim's own solo
Yeah.
project songs, and a few Dexys songs thrown
Oh,
in.
magic. That'd be
Yeah,
wonderful.
yeah. And
Who's
the arrangements the students are doing of the songs are just fantastic,
yeah,
just amazing. So there's the students who are studying arranging at the college. So we're working with about 10 of them who are sending us their arrangements of the songs, which is
yeah.
just brilliant, you know. So they're
Oh,
going to
that'd
be
be great.
a bit different, you know. And then for us to be playing with, you know, I mean, they're fantastic standards, you know. But we've already done a couple of gigs with a very small group of their musicians,
Yeah.
and they've been really exciting. But to have this, you know, massive orchestra is very exciting. So they're the next ones coming up. So really
Magic.
look forward to it.
Yeah, I look
Yeah.
forward to reading about those. I'm sure they'll be great. I actually get to Manchester now and again because my son lives quite nearby. So
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
so who knows? Maybe just can get a pass out and come down
Oh, it'd be amazing.
if
Yeah,
my
yeah,
diary
yeah.
wants it. I know that one sold out already. I think you're
I think they're
doing the
both
next one.
sold out.
They both
But
sold out now. That's wonderful.
yeah,
Right. Okay.
but you know, yeah, might
There's
be able to
always
arrange something.
Yeah, there's always a way, isn't there? We'll find one somewhere if I can get down.
Or
I'll have to.
somewhere. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'll check with my son. So so Helen O'Hara, that was live music in me. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much and for asking me. It'd be great to chat.
Take care.
Okay, Brian. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.